Today we continue again with our discussion where we are focusing on some of the solutions that we think might be able to address some of the challenges which are faced by our continent, the African continent. Today's discussion is focused on the freedom of expression. There is agreement that freedom of expression and the right to peaceful protest constitutes basic human rights. Constitutions of most African countries have a Bill of Rights, and it is from that Bill of Rights that parliaments enact laws to protect and operationalize the basic human rights. Governments then set up ministries with budgets to address the basic human rights. As a result, we end up with ministries such as the Ministry of Water and Natural Resources, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, just but to mention a few. This does not, however, give governments the monopoly for the provision of these basic rights. The private sector and other non-state actors are stakeholders as well, and have been allowed to complement or supplement the government's efforts in addressing these human rights issues. There is, however, one important basic right that has not been allocated a ministry in most, if not all, African countries. That is the right relating to the freedom of expression. The Ministry of Freedom of Expression and Peaceful Protests is the missing link between governments and society in a functional constitutional democracy. In most countries, the freedom of expression has been confused to mean free press. Most will agree that utter rubbish is wrong. Think of the fake news and propaganda, for example. There are, however, powerful arguments against the establishment of such a ministry. But what's happening on the ground suggests otherwise. Protests and solidarity marches have cost governments millions of dollars in terms of property destruction and monitoring. Yet there is very little effort in trying to decriminalize protests. The current situation where the rights are enshrined in the Constitution, but in any event of abuse or redress, one has to go to the Constitutional Court, which in any case is not easily accessible, is an oxymoron. The freedom of expression, while constitutional, can easily be criminalized by the lack of enabling environment, including legislation and funding. The right to demonstrate or protest should not be a burden to anyone who wishes to exercise that right. It shouldn't be a preserve for those in urban areas. The current scenario favors those with resources and can also be manipulated by those funding the protests. Most governments blame Western countries for funding protests and promoting regime change. The opposition, on the other hand, armed with evidence, have accused governments of violence with impunity to suppress freedom of expression and the right to peaceful protest. What is also of interest is that even the opposition parties who advocate for the freedom of expression and the right to protest don't have within their structures a position for Secretary of Freedom of Expression and Peaceful Protest. This is an indictment on the opposition parties, as it seems to suggest that whenever they will get the chance to form a government, the Department of Freedom of Expression will be missing in their government. While there are counter-accusations of violence between governments and the opposition, the bottom line is that protests have resulted in loss of life and property. The economy has not been spared either. This cannot continue. One life lost is one too many. The brutal use of force by governments against protesters and the continued use of humans as fodder for, in treacherous environments by the opposition cannot be allowed to continue. It must come to a stop. The establishment of the Department of Freedom of Expression and peaceful protest will go a long way in curbing violence and ensuring that the people can protest freely and that their grievances will reach cabinet via the responsible minister and will also guarantee feedback. I am proposing the creation of the Department of Freedom of Expression and Peaceful Protest. What that entails is the enactment of an Act of Parliament and the creation of a budget for the department by all reasonable governments. The proposal should allow individuals and groups of all people to walk into the Ministry of Freedom of Expression and Peaceful Protest and request for any form of assistance to enable them to protest and be able to get that required help, be it transport or security or any other material that they may require in order for their protest to be successful. And then the same people can come back later and get feedback from the powers that be. I acknowledge the work being done by human rights commissions in many parts of Africa, but that should be viewed as complementary. The freedom of expression is a right that never was.